What is up, everybody? It is Monday, November 21st, and this is the Casual Wrestling Daily Podcast, the daily pro wrestling podcast news show where we discuss everything that is going on in the world of WWE and AEW. If you enjoy the content and you're feeling a little bit oozy, you are welcome to go ahead and click the link in the description of this video and donate a couple of dollars. If not, just sit back and relax and enjoy the next 30 minutes of pro wrestling talk. As always, if you don't know now, you know I am the Notorious Nerdy D, aka the voice of the casual wrestling cult and the host of the Casual Wrestling Community channel. Remember, we are on patreon.com/the Casual Wrestling Show. It is free to follow. That is where we post channel updates and community updates. Make sure to go over to patreon.com/the Casual Wrestling Show. Hit the follow button. It is 100% free to join up. But if you are feeling oozy, you can become a Patreon producer like our friends. It's Zenny, LGRSM, and Redis JC. Thank you guys for supporting the show. We appreciate it more than you could ever know. Without further ado, let's jump in to today's show. Right off the bat, we got to talk about it, right? Because I am super critical of AEW. And this week, I pulled the trigger. This past weekend, I pulled the trigger. I thought about it. I didn't know what I was going to do. And at the final moment, I pulled the trigger and I bought Full Gear. And I'm not mad. I'm not mad I bought Full Gear. Newsflash, surprise. For everybody who calls me an AEW hater, the next 10 minutes might surprise you because I'm going to go through. There was quite a bit on that show to enjoy, starting with Jungle Boy, a.k.a. Jack Perry, and Luchasaurus. Those two guys impressed the shit out of me to open the show. That was a solid match as far as casual wrestling fans go. Because you got to remember, I'm coming at this from a casual fan's point of view. I'm not coming at this from the AEW elitist kind of rose-colored glasses. And that was a match that appeals to the whole spectrum of wrestling fans. I think it had everything that AEW fans appreciate as far as wrestling goes, but it had a good amount of storytelling and a good amount of kind of casual wrestling gimmick in it. I understand the critics are going to say, and the knock on Full Gear is going to be the lack of storytelling leading into the event. Now, that may be true, but the amount of storytelling that happened during the event, I think might have been sufficient. And we got to talk about, man, that jump off of the top rope. Off of the top of the cage. That type of shit, that is the shit that AEW does on a consistent basis that, while reckless, dangerous, probably fucking stupid, that's the stuff that when you watch it, you go like, that's why people like this stuff. That's why wrestling fans watch this stuff. It's for the things that you don't see that everywhere. You don't see a guy jump from 18 feet up in the air through a table, through a dinosaur laying on a table. That's not something you see everywhere. That's a highlight that should be clipped and played over and over because that was highly impressive. That was a great way to start Full Gear. It got me into a mindset that said, okay, I'm ready for this. I'm ready for Full Gear. As a casual wrestling fan, I came into it not expecting much. I said, what is going to happen between, this is how you sell. I am one of the biggest advocates against size in wrestling. Small wrestlers, not a big fan, right? But that's how you sell big versus small. That's how you sell a guy overcoming the odds. They did a good job this time. Typically, I'm critical of AEW for not selling it correctly. That was the correct way to do it. And it worked as a first match overall. So then from that match, What do? We roll right into the Elite. We roll right into the Elite, who I was extremely critical of all week. Extremely critical of them placing themselves in a high-level match. Extremely critical of them putting themselves in a title match, coming back with absolutely no repercussions for everything that happened at All Out, at the media scrum, and they took their time off. They played video games. They went on vacation. They were filming reality shows. I was super critical of them. And here we go. We lead in, and they come out. And they come out to the perfect song. And I realized immediately I hate the Elite. The Elite annoy the shit out of me. And I immediately realized that's what they're supposed to do. They've mission accomplished, guys. I hate you. I hate the Elite. And they make perfect bad guys. I found myself rooting for the Death Triangle, and I'm not even fans of them. That's how you engage casual fans like myself, is when you get me invested, you get me to buy into your bullshit. Now, whether this was planned, whether this is coincidence, whether this just happened because of the CM Punk stuff, it happened, but I dislike the Elite, which makes me like AEW a little bit more. I have somebody to cheer against. And surprising as hell, I didn't see it coming. I never expected that when that match started, we were going to get fuck CM Punk chants. I didn't expect that to happen. I really thought that the crowd, the AEW crowd, might give a little bit of respect, but it looks like AEW is done. Zero chance he returns. Not after that. He's not coming back. They don't need him. They don't want him. AEW fans chose their side. It's obvious they are behind the Elite. And one thing I'll say, in watching an AEW Elite match with the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, man, I tweeted it out. It's a spot fest. It's Circus Soleil. It's a circus. There's not a lot of cohesiveness. It's big spot after big spot after big spot. And while I'm not a fan, probably my least favorite match on the card that night. It was fun to root against the Elite, but I'm not a fan of that style of wrestling. It's not for me, but I can say I 100% get how you become an AEW fan. If you're a fan of that, if you're a fan of big spots, tons of super kicks, tons of popping off the ropes, tons of flipping around, a lot of choreographed fighting that doesn't, like, when you really break it down, it doesn't make much sense. A lot of guys waiting on people to jump on them. A lot of setup, but a lot of big time, like, moments that are they're clippable. You can put them on YouTube. They're going to get the AEW crowd hyped. They're going to get the IWC crowd hyped. I get it. That's mission accomplished there. Spot Fest 2022, Spot Fest match of the year. That's it, right? They nailed it. It had a little bit of everything, it had a little tugging, a little push and pull with, like, do we cheat? Do we not cheat? We get a dirty finish of a guy who doesn't really want to finish dirty. And like, they sold it. It was as good as it could be for as critical as I was all week, as far as that goes. It's not for me. That match was not meant for me. That match was fan service for the Elite fans, for the IWC, for the hardcore AEW. And that's okay, because this show altogether felt like it had a little bit of something for everybody. It really did. And that's funny, because I think you're going to look at this overall, and maybe the IWC and some other fans are going to shit on this show. And as a casual fan, I'm going to come back and say, I saw the attempt to gain a larger audience in this night. I saw Jade Cargill come out, and look, I'm not sold and overly impressed with her wrestling ability, just like a lot of people aren't with Britt Baker, and that's okay, right? Because I think the package of Jade Cargill, the marketability of Jade Cargill, is astronomical. What is there not to like about Jade Cargill? I thought her fucking outfit was fire. She came out as a Thundercat. That was dope, man. That was cool. What is there not to like about Jade Cargill? Now, you could get nitpicky. You could talk about X's and O's, flips and things like that, but that's not where I come from. I don't watch wrestling for that. I watch wrestling for the story, for the entertainment, for the marketing. That's what I like. I like the show. I like the lights, the glitz, the glamour. That's why I'm watching pro wrestling. And when I watch Jade Cargill, she ticks those boxes. And I saw a lot of people calling to get the belt off of her, but why? Who are you going to put it on? Like right now, the crowd is behind this. They're behind this kind of Goldberg-esque streak. There's no reason to end that. Wrestling fans get overly, especially IWC, they get overly like anxious of things that are getting a little commercial. And Jade Cargill is getting a little bit commercial, right? She's appealing with the outfits. She's appealing with the way she talks. She's attractive. She has all of these high marketability things. And then the IWC panics and goes, get the belt off of her. She's way too commercial. I don't like that. I thought, man, for a match that I had zero interest in, I came out of it not saying that it was a great wrestling match by any stretch of the means, but I came out of it saying, I can see Jade Cargill is trending in the right direction, at least. Like she's going in the right direction, and I can appreciate that. Then we got to the Ring of Honor, or no, it was the TNT title match. The TNT title match was between Samoa Joe, Wardlow, and Hobbs. No complaints there, man. That is, to me, that is an underused group of people on AEW. When you start finally putting big guys in the ring with big guys, you get these kind of matches. It felt like a heavyweight title fight. It felt like big guys getting in there and scrapping and mixing it up, and it felt good. My only problem, one big problem coming out of AEW Full Gear, as a casual wrestling fan watching this show, I left with a little bit of confusion. And that confusion stems from this idea. There's a lot of titles in AEW, more so than I even realized. Like there's a lot of titles, and I'm not sure I understand the hierarchy of these titles, because I think AEW tries to portray this like linear position of titles, but it's obvious to people that titles have to have a position. It was obvious after tonight that the AEW World Championship that MJF won, that's the granddaddy. You can't sell me anymore on this idea that the TNT title and that big boy beautiful belt, like those are equal. They're not. You do have a major title and you do have a mid card. Where I'm confused is, where does the Ring of Honor title fit into that picture? Are we supposed to view the Ring of Honor title? They keep referencing it as a world title, yet I don't know that it feels more important than the TNT title. And by doing that, do we discredit the TNT title? Because I thought that was a hell of a match. Wardlow is extremely impressive. Samoa Joe is Samoa Joe. He's going to give you Samoa Joe every fucking time he hits the ring, and there's nothing wrong with that. And then Powerhouse Hobbs is coming to be. But those are three big guys who can move around the ring, and they put on an impressive match. That was a match that you don't expect to see. When you turn on an AEW show, you're not expecting to see three guys like that get a decent amount of time and put on a pretty good show. I was impressed. And this is coming from somebody who has not been a loyal watcher of weekly Dynamite and Rampage television. I tune in, I tune out. I've tended to just watch the things that interest me and kind of strayed away from, there's a lot that doesn't interest me. But today or last night, I chose, I watched it Sunday. So last night, I chose to really focus in and watch everything with like just a clear vision. This may have been my sleeper for match of the night. I really enjoyed that match. I also had no problem. And then this is another match that I was super critical of all week. And that was Saraya and Britt Baker. And it wasn't bad. It wasn't great. It wasn't great. It was probably what we all should have expected. Britt did a good job of protecting her. It was not a long match. I think it was like 12 minutes, it felt like. And it wasn't anything. If you were writing a playbook for how to have a good return match, not a great, but a good return match to allow Saraya to get back into the groove of things, this was it. That's how you do it. And it went well. My fear is she can't do that forever. And I know it's early and this is an overreaction, but you can't, there's not going to be this level of emotion to protect her forever, because coming off that match, they kept cutting the camera to her brother. There's everybody crying. There's a lot of emotion that spills out after that victory because she is coming back. But like they asked her in the media scrum, you know, how often do you plan to wrestle? And that's a question that I have, right? Was this a one-off? Is this a one-off thing we get to be happy with? Or is she really coming back to kind of entertain, maybe going after the women's championship at some point? And if she is, we have a ways to go. Now, she admitted she was rusty, and I got zero problems with that, right? That's what you expect after 8 years not being in the ring. You expect to be a little bit rusty, but I thought, once again, this match did its job. I think it was placed extremely well within the card. There was not much emphasis put on it. What this match did was it did an incredible job of selling me on wanting to watch this pay-per-view. It was a big part of me tuning in, but then once they got me kind of sunk into the event, this match was just kind of a filler. It was just kind of in the middle. It was there. It made sense. It did exactly what it's supposed to do. And then it got out of the way for the rest of the show. And there's no problem with that. I have no problem with that. I also have no problem with the fact that Sting is like 70 something years old and he's still doing his thing in the ring. This dude is older than my dad. Like, I just realized watching AEW, watching Full Gear, Sting is older than my dad, and he is still doing the damn thing in the ring. That's crazy. And shout out to Jeff Jarrett. He looked good in the ring. I've been critical of all these people. I know when I'm wrong. I'm willing to admit when I'm wrong. I'm not sold on AEW, guys. I'm not having a 360 here. What I'm doing is I'm telling you guys I enjoyed this moment, this Full Gear pay-per-view, because what I'm afraid of is I go tune in Wednesday and then we get a bunch of guys I've never fucking heard of again. Like, we resort back. And I think the reason, I think overall, I haven't looked at social media, but I think people may be down on Full Gear a little bit. And that's probably the reason I'm up on it, because it was more of a casual friendly show than most AEW shows. Almost every match I watched featured somebody I recognize. There wasn't a bunch of this like, who the fuck is that guy? Or where the fuck did this guy come from? Or this guy's from New Japan Pro Wrestling. This was the most, and dare I say, WWE looking pay-per-view that AEW has put on since I've started watching. And I did enjoy it. And then we got to talk about the interim title match between Jamie Hayter and Toni Storm, with Britt Baker getting involved. Can we cut the fucking interim title bullshit? Like, that's so stupid. It takes away from the accomplishment of that was a solid title match. Those two women are both more interesting than Thunder Rosa. Like, nobody cares. If Thunder Rosa comes back, great. She can be first in line to get the opportunity against Jamie Hayter. But like, let's not devalue these matches because we want to play pretend MMA. Like, you don't need interim champions in professional wrestling. Just strip the belt. Quit joking about it. Quit talking about it, Tony Khan. Just strip the belt. Take the belt away from Thunder Rosa and let Jamie Hayter have her moment, because how many title matches can you have in between? And to me, your interim champion should only be interim champion until she has to defend it against somebody else. So if your real champion can't come back before your interim champion has to defend that belt, then the real champion needs to be stripped of the belt. It's time. It's time. Unfortunately, whatever's wrong with Thunder Rosa, it's not going away fast enough. So it's time, take the belt away. And like I said, hey, when you feel better, when you're ready to come back, you could be first in line. But until then, we're not going to keep playing interim champion. How does that look in the record books? Like, when we go back and look, does Toni Storm's, does her title run go down as only an interim champion, or does it go down as being a legitimate champion? Like, if it's just interim, that's bullshit. And then we ended the show. We ended the show with the big boys, right? The Moxley MJF match, it sold. It did everything it was advertised to do. It was a slugfest. It was rough. Love that it didn't rely on blood. It didn't rely on the normal AEW tropes and gimmicks. It was just a straight up wrestling match. And MJF sold it beautifully. And MJF played the part of babyface. And he did everything the way that he had been doing it. And then boom, we get the big twist at the end. Now, some of you might have seen it coming, but as a casual wrestling fan, I didn't know this was what we were going for. I had no clue that William Regal was going to be on the side of MJF. Love it. Love the ending. Love the finish. Love MJF winning the title. Love the celebration, the real raw emotion that came out of him. It's been a long journey, but guess what? This is it, man. The show begins. This is the real test for AEW. This is your guy. Like, Moxley is a big deal, but Moxley doesn't appeal to the casual fans. Moxley's great. The IWC fucking loves him. They'll tell you he's the best wrestler in the world. AEW fans, they fucking love him. They'll tell you he's the best wrestler in the world. But casual fans aren't 100%. They still see him as Dean Ambrose. Casual fans didn't fall in love with Moxley the way the IWC did. This is it. This is go time. This is all systems go. This is MJF is the champion of AEW, and we can begin a new era in AEW wrestling that is going to be led by a guy who is must-watch TV. Now, takeaways from this match, MJF looked big as fuck, man. Like, he's bulked up. He's taking this shit serious. He is every day looking more and more like a professional wrestler and less like I used to refer to him as a fucking choir nerd. He doesn't look like that anymore. MJF looks like a guy who's coming to fucking fight. And I'm okay with, like, I'm good with that. Like, the passion is there. The work ethic is there. It's like, it is time. MJF, I'm fucking calling. Take over the industry. I'm okay with it. I'm a WWE guy through and through, but I'm ready for this. Like, I'm ready to see if MJF can pull the numbers, if he can pull the attention of fans and raise and boost AEW ratings, let's do it. Because he looked good in the ring. And at the media scrum, he came out and said, he's the best wrestler in the world. It's time to back it up. He's the best talker in the world. It's time to back it up. And I think he can do it. Like, I get, like, there are people who shit on when I talk about MJF and they go, he'd be a mid-carder in WWE. I don't buy that bullshit. I don't buy that bullshit one bit. I think MJF is the real deal. I think this is the official beginning of AEW. As far as I'm concerned, from a mass marketing perspective and professional wrestling, this is the first champion outside of CM Punk who didn't have enough time to actually do what I think MJF will do. But outside of CM Punk, this is the first champion that's going to appeal to the mass audiences. Moxley didn't do it. Hangman didn't do it. I think Jericho was just a little too early before everybody was willing to kind of hear it out. But, like, this is it. This is go time for them. And I'm excited. I'm excited to tune in on Wednesday and see what happens. Can they drop the ball? Oh, of course they can. Because that's what AEW tends to do, right? Is Wednesday we'll come out and we'll see a bunch of fucking people we've never seen before. As casual fans, not talking about as IWC, but as casual fans, we'll see a bunch of people that we've never fucking seen before, and we'll go, oh, more of this. More of this, right? More of this. Put together, like, the guys that were on tonight, that's who needs to be on TV every night. That's it. Like, put those guys on TV, pound those guys into the fucking casual fans' heads, and your audience will grow. There's something there. Like, there was the makings there tonight for a show that can capture casual fans. I'm 100% under that belief. I also want to talk about SmackDown and Kevin Owens' return, because that's kind of a big deal. We talked all week last week about the knee injury and the meniscus possible tear that Kevin Owens got at a house show. And the question is now, I mean, are we being worked by Triple H, or is this just showing, like, how tough Kevin Owens really is? Now, I believe that when I was watching SmackDown, there was a visible limp when he came out to the ring. When his music hit after Roman, which was epic, right? And Roman comes out. I thought that SmackDown, let's just take a second to talk about, I'm down on Raw right now, but I am very up on SmackDown. I thought SmackDown was, from start to finish, a well put together 2-hour show. I wish Monday Night Raw would follow suit and give us a solid 2-hour show. That can just be kind of, it just, like, Raw just feels it's a little loosey-goosey. It's just a little too much going on, and we have to drag these matches out too long because Triple H isn't willing to just have a ton of segments in Monday Night Raw, so he stretches out these matches real long, and it's more of a wrestling show. SmackDown feels like an entertainment. And that's kind of the opposite of what we were sold on, right? We were kind of sold on from the beginning that Fox wanted the real wrestling, the real sports show. And it feels like with Bray Wyatt, with Roman Reigns, now with Kevin Owens, with Drew McIntyre, we're getting into a little bit here again of the A show, B show thing. It really does feel like it. But when Kevin Owens returned, let's get back to what we're talking about here. When Kevin Owens returned, I saw a visible limp. I don't know what everybody else saw, but it did appear that he limped to the ring, which is going to lead me to say, this is one tough son of a bitch. Like, Kevin Owens is he's got to be the toughest man in pro wrestling, because I think 99% of other wrestlers, if they have that injury, they're out 6 weeks. They hit the shelf. And I think Kevin Owens looked at his landscape, right? It's what I've been talking about. You can't let the hot pot cool off. And I think Kevin Owens looked at it and he goes, I know I'm in the plans. I know I'm due for a big push. I can't sit this one out. Like, I can't let somebody take that spot, because what if they take that spot and they hit that moment, and then it slips through what happens? You can't do it. And I think Kevin said, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to go out there. I don't give a fuck if my knee's falling off. I'm going to limp to the ring. I'm going to super kick a couple guys. I'm going to stun a couple guys. I'm going to do the thing. And he did the thing. And somehow he overcomes this shit. Then I go on to find out that he worked a dark match. And that's probably just to test the leg out, I'm assuming, right? He probably was like, all right, give me a match. Let me do something. And that dark match was against none other than Austin Theory, which he beat, which is interesting. Once again, because we all talked about this new Austin Theory that we were all, I wasn't on board, but everybody else was so hyped up about, but they're, once again, using him as a piece to get beat up. And I know you go, oh, but it's a dark match. It's a dark match, D. Yeah, no, it's a dark match, but it's still not very protecting. You had a crowd that left with the taste of Austin Theory losing again. Is that just, I think, like, I'm afraid that everybody's getting hyped up on this idea that they're building up Austin Theory to be this monster, when maybe they're just feeding Austin Theory to Seth Rollins again. That there could be a possibility that's what's happening. But back to Kevin Owens. Let's talk about for a second. Even after watching all of AEW Full Gear, even after watching all of that, there are no two wrestlers in the business to me that are more over with just mass fans than Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns. The pop that those guys get when their music hits, it's phenomenal. Because WWE crowds are a little less reactive than AEW, but yet when Roman's music hits and that epic interest starts, like the way Roman just walks to the ring casually when there's just a shit show going on in the ring and the Bloodline are in trouble, there's just like an aura around him that says like megastar. Roman Reigns, megastar. But then you get Kevin Owens and the pop is just as big. And the crowd is behind him. And the crowd wants to see him successful. And it's interesting. It's very interesting, because we all believe right now that we're headed towards possibly Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn teaming up to take on the Bloodline at some point and win the tag team titles. I'm not so sure right now. There's something inside me that says Kevin Owens may be due. He may be due to dethrone Roman Reigns, and I'm not mad at that idea at all. I think there's a big possibility at War Games, the Bloodlines take the loss. Now, I don't think Roman's not going to get pinned. Let's not overreact. They're not coming for Roman in that way. But there's a good chance that the Bloodline takes the loss. And I think Sami Zayn's going to take the pin. And I think Kevin Owens is going to pin him. And I think it's going to create dissension within the Bloodline. I think we are witnessing the beginning of the end for Sami and the Bloodline. I think the next 60 days heading into the Rumble will be interesting, because with no premium live events, I do think we see more of Roman Reigns. And I think we get to see the story of the Bloodline really unfold in the next 60 days, 30 days especially, but 60 days, it will be interesting to see what really takes place as we kind of we are definitely near the end of this thing. I know we all think it's The Rock. And I know we all think it's The Rock, or we don't all, but I know there's a lot of people who think that The Rock is going to be the one to dethrone Roman, or just at least take on Roman. But I think Kevin Owens is waiting in the wind for this thing, and he's primed and ready. And if it's not Kevin, it's got to be Sami. It's got to be one of those two. I mean, I think those two guys are just primed to do it. Last thing on this the SmackDown thing. Did anybody else catch Drew McIntyre asking Solo if Roman was coming out yet? Those are funny moments that get caught, like when the broadcasting team kind of misses a cue and they had the camera on Drew McIntyre. If you didn't see it, go back and watch it. It's funny. You can see Drew visibly asking Solo, like, is he coming yet? Is he out yet? Because Roman's interest is so long and takes so long to happen, I don't think he wanted to turn around to whatever that moment was. I think he took a spear or a Superman punch, one or the other. But like, it was just funny to see them kind of queuing that up. The last thing I want to talk about today is we got some updates on AEW Fight Forever. We got a new trailer that dropped. And if you check social media, it's like politics, man. Split right down the middle. You got red and blue. There are people who are so fucking absolutely hyped for this game, and then there are people who just calling it a PlayStation 2 game, saying it's gonna suck, saying the graphics are terrible. Look, man, at this point, the graphics are what the graphics are, and you're gonna have to live with what the graphics are. And I think the graphics are a little bit intentional. I think there's an overreaction to this idea that this game looks bad. I think that like there's a little bit of nostalgia involved in this game. This is No Mercy. This is WCW Revenge. They haven't really skirted around the idea that that's what that is. And it gives all the vibes. Like it gives all the feels of a Nintendo 64 wrestling game, just polished up a little bit more. I'm on board. But if that's not what you're looking for, this game's not going to be for you. If you didn't enjoy WrestleMania 2000 or whatever, 2000 or 2001, if you didn't enjoy WWF No Mercy, if you didn't enjoy WCW NWO Revenge, definitely this is probably not for you, right? Now, it bothers me a little bit we didn't get a release date, but I think that somebody within THQ or somebody within AEW said, we've got to clean it up. We got to clean it up. We can't let this shit come out to a disaster. Because you see, they came out and they fixed the cover. They got rid of CM Punk, new cover. It's got MJF on it. It's got, who else is that on there? It's got Jade Cargill, Sting, Orange Cassidy, Bryan Danielson, Jericho, MJF, Moxley, Adam Page, Kenny Omega, and Britt Baker. It's got the ones you need, right? They fixed that problem. You solved that problem. Now, if they're doing any tweaking to the roster, more power to them, right? Smart move. Take your time. We don't want like a cyberpunk fiasco with this game. We want a game that comes out that's well done and it's ready to go. But like from looking at like I have a screenshot. It's right here. I have a screenshot right here. That blood stuff looks cool. Like the thumbtacks on the mat look cool. That's stuff you don't get in WWE games, and it's gonna be different. I'm imagining that this game is going to be more geared towards like friends playing games with friends. This isn't like they've never intended this to be a simulation. Now, they're trying to sell it with like a deep career mode, but that can be fun, even with a game like this. We'll see how like the creation suite will make a big difference, because if you can kind of get in there and get detailed and you can create WWE wrestlers and kind of do that fantasy wrestling type stuff, it could get interesting. This could be kind of a cult classic fun game, which in AEW fashion seems like exactly what the IWC are looking for. And I'm all about it, right? I loved No Mercy, one of my favorite wrestling games of all time. So I have no problem with that. I did notice in the trailer, the intergender matches were interesting. There was a couple clips of Bryan Danielson and Britt Baker fighting against each other that looked really interesting. They looked fun. And a fun little fact, like last thing, fun little fact about the game is Sting and Chris Jericho are the only two wrestlers who are returning from the Revenge No Mercy game engine. Like those guys have been doing the pro wrestling thing that long that they were in those games. I believe Jericho might have been in, I believe he was in at least one of the WWF ones. And I know he was in WCW NWO Revenge or one of the two WCW ones. But that's crazy. That's crazy he's been doing it this long. That's insane. So tomorrow we'll talk a little bit. We're going to talk about what happens on Monday Night Raw. Should be interesting. I'm still not, like, I'm a little bit hurt by Monday Night Raw right now. You guys all seem to be sold and don't seem to be panicking, but I'm a little bit panicked. I need to see something. This is go home time. This is go home time for Monday Night Raw. So, like, I'm gonna need to see. We still don't have a full card put together, which bothers me. We've got two, not bad, but we've got two kind of thrown together War Games matches that we're supposed to be excited for. After Friday, I'm sold on the men's. Gonna need a little bit of a better explanation on why I should pay attention to the women's, which hopefully we get on Monday. Hopefully we get a little bit more reason to pay attention to AJ Styles and Finn Balor. Not because it's a great match, but just because, like, I don't understand the non-involvement of the OC and the Judgment Day. Like, why is that at least not a 3-on-3 tag match? None of that makes sense. They got to somehow get something involved. And then other than that, like, they've got to fill out that card in an interesting way. So it'll be fun. I'll watch Monday Night Raw tonight. And then we can talk more about that tomorrow. But that is all the time that I have today for the Casual Wrestling Podcast. We will pick up where we left off tomorrow. Make sure to tune in Monday through Friday for more amazing WWE and AEW Wrestling Podcast content. As always, I am the Notorious Nerdy D, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow.
Step in the ring, if you ready, let's go. Hey, Casual Wrestling Community Show. You already know, talking WWE. Keep it rolling and hosted by Notorious Nerdy D. Don't show that you gon' find. Tune in cause it's online. Hit 'em with a figure 4 leg lock, power driver or clothesline. We bringing that heat like the show, but you should